What's going on, Leaguers? Welcome to the Spectacular Spoiler League. I'm the Pandan Superman, the mayor of Hype City HazyRome, and as always, I'm joined by the Gotham Knight, the Prime Minister of Post-Production, DeepBoyce. And today, we are in the Hall of Spoilers to talk about Krypton, man.
Yes, sir.
So we got some news, man. We got some news, courtesy of comicbook.com.
And that is?
So, Chris McCumber, he's the president of entertainment networks for NBC Universal Cable Entertainment, right? Mm-hmm. Basically, he was talking about programming on SyFy, upcoming programming on SyFy. Krypton is a TV series. It's going to be about Seg-El, the grandfather of Kal-El, and his life on Krypton. So, they asked him some questions. Comicbook.com asked him questions about, who could potentially appear on the show. And he said that the series is definitely going to contain other DC Comics characters in the Krypton world. And he said that they've had multiple talks, or plenty of talks, with Warner Brothers about the use of multiple characters. So, that got me and DeepBoyce thinking, man.
Yep.
What are we thinking about, DeepBoyce?
Thinking about what characters and elements we'd like to see introduced into this new show, Krypton. Specifically, 10. I guess you could say our top 10.
Top 10 DC characters, DC Comics characters who could appear in Krypton. So this is a little bit of our wishes and our hopes and dreams, but you never know what they got up their sleeve. And, honestly, initially, it's you think about the idea like, man, Clark Kent's grandfather, like who wants to hear about that? But DC Comics has a significant history of aliens and time travel.
Yep.
So we're going to get into the list and hopefully convince you that this show might be worth watching based on some of the characters that could appear.
Yes,
that being said, DeepBoyce, hold us down with the first of our 10, man.
Number 10, a guy by the name of Imperator X.
There we go.
One of, I guess you could say, DC Comics' biggest threats, but a character that isn't really used all that often. You don't hear too much about him, and it's a safe bet that he's probably not going to be in the movie, so why not maybe involve a universe-wide galactic threat that is Imperator X.
Exactly, man. I mean, he's basically the female embodiment of Entropy. And I said the female embodiment. I don't know why. I feel like that was a Freudian slip. Like I was talking about my personal life right there. He's the embodiment of Entropy. So he takes the form of, pure energy that's trapped inside like a set of armor. Now, Imperator X and Entropy have been in existence since like the beginning of the universe. And what Imperator X does is he destroys the universe and builds a new one on top of it. So legions of superheroes have faced off with him and way in like the year 3000 and whatnot. But who's to say he can't appear earlier than that, man? That's the beauty of a character like that, man. He's timeless in a sense.
Totally agree.
But next up, we've got the alien, the menace that is Starro.
Starro, and I guess his legion of little Starros that he likes to throw out.
Yeah, his little Starro semen spores.
I mean, he's a DC villain you see from time to time. He's also a Superman villain.
Yes, definitely. I would say definitively a Superman villain in that respect.
Absolutely. So it would be interesting to kind of see, I guess, this character of Starro, and he comes out and he is a planet-wide threat for Krypton, and maybe puts people into the hypnosis and is able to, I guess, take control of Krypton. And obviously some of the major characters could fight back. I mean, it's a tried and true storyline when it comes to superheroes.
Absolutely, where you're facing a legion of mind-controlled beings, because Starro basically is like a starfish, or his little minions are like starfishes that wrap around people's faces or body parts, chest. Sometimes it's a face, sometimes it's a chest, depending on the depiction. I mean, Starro's been in, he was in Supergirl. He was also in Superman the Animated Series, or Justice League rather, the animated series. But, Starro basically mind controls people, and, there's nothing we love more than a legion of mind-controlled, zombified people that you have to fight.
Yes.
And not kill, because that adds a layer of complexity there.
Absolutely.
Next up, DeepBoyce, hit us up with number 8.
After Starro, we're looking to see the Reach in the Krypton show. The whole, I guess, galactic race or empire called the Reach. I think it's an empire. I think it's a collection of different races that these Beetle / cyborg, I guess, overlords are kind of in control of, and they're always looking to expand by adding more worlds, more species, and maybe that could be another threat for, again, the planet of Krypton and all the Kryptonians. And we'd like to see Seg-El and whomever is in the show work together or maybe set aside the differences, because also the family of Zod is going to be in this. To fight off, or at least diplomatically reach some sort of impasse with the Reach.
Yeah, I mean, the dopest thing about the Reach, I mean, the Reach are, the Reach in particular are alien race of conquerors. Obviously, they're an empire in the sense that they conquer other races and, rule over them. Mm-hmm. But the interesting thing about the Reach is that they created the scarab technology behind the Blue Beetle. Mm-hmm. So, Jaime Reyes, Ted Cord, the Blue Beetle identity is based on the Reach technology. The Beetle scarab is Reach technology. So it would be insane. I mean, we saw it in Young Justice. If you watch that show, if you haven't, you need to. Stop playing. They've got Black Beetle and Green Beetle in that show. And, just fantastic and honestly very menacing characters who it would be kind of dope to see a precursor to that in Krypton. I think that they could be really, ominous villains in Krypton. And Krypton takes place 200 years before, let's say the time period of Man of Steel, according to, the premise of the show. Ties to DCEU haven't been confirmed yet, but basically it'd be dope to see kind of like a precursor to the Blue Beetle technology. That'd be sick, man.
Totally agree.
But anyway, number 7, so this one's we just threw a bunch in here because basically we said Apocalypse and the New Genesis, right?
Yes.
So Apocalypse, New Genesis, they're twin planets. And the race of people that live on those planets are called the New Gods. Mm-hmm. Now, that may not sound familiar to some people, but some of the New Gods are Darkseid. Yep. You've got, Glorious Godfrey. You've got Granny Goodness. You've got Darkseid. That's kind of on Darkseid's evil, pantheon of villains.
Steppenwolf who's going to be in the Justice League movie.
Steppenwolf, indeed, right? Who's going to be in Justice League. And then those are the people from Apocalypse. And on the New Gods, you have, people like Highfather, Orion, Big Barter. So the idea behind it is these planets have been at war with each other for like centuries, man. Apocalypse and New Genesis hate each other. Yeah. They've been warring for mad long. So it'd be dope to kind of see the precursor to that war. I mean, let's be honest, we're not going to see Darkseid in this show. Like, the chances of us seeing Darkseid in the show are slim,
and we don't need to.
We don't need to. That's why I named all those other characters. So, like, what if we saw, like, a young Highfather who's dealing with, this war? He's going to be ruler of this planet, the New Gods, of New Genesis, and he realizes, like, hey, this war is going to be a problem for us, or it's continuing to be a problem for us, and he comes to Krypton. Yeah. Krypton, they're great with, science and technology. Maybe he comes to them for help. Conversely, maybe Darkseid sends some of his, his lackeys like Glorious Godfrey, who's basically like, specializes in propaganda. What if he sends them to Krypton to, take some technology and kind of infiltrate the people there and stir up some trouble? Yeah. Prepare the planet for conquering.
Or maybe we see some more mother box shenanigans. Usually that's what DC kind of likes to, throw out there. And that's part of what's going on in the movies. Why not maybe have a little bit of that in the show as well?
And, for all we know, it could even paint a picture as to why, Darkseid, maybe, let's say he hates Superman. Maybe he has a history with the El family. Maybe it's something, bigger than that, Krypton can possibly tell. Yeah. I don't know. But it's a dope idea, man.
Absolutely.
On to the next. This one's actually pretty good, DeepBoyce. I like this one.
Yes. Our 6th entry into this list are the Martians, both the Green Martians and the White Martians. And for a specific reason, while we were making this list, we were kind of juggling, adding some entries, taking some out. We were about to not add the Martians, but then we kind of realized that this could be an interesting opportunity to show Mars and the Martian society before the genocide that occurred. We always see Martian Manhunter or Miss Martian, and we always see the tragedy that happened in their pasts being referred to, and maybe see it in flashbacks like in the show Supergirl, or maybe even some of the cartoons. But we never actually get to see or something that takes place during the time, during or before when those atrocities take place. So you have a lot of, opportunity to do something interesting where you see the beginnings of this civil war, the beginnings of this descent into a genocide, into a holocaust of sorts on Mars, by introducing all sorts of, maybe you could see the Martians in a different light. both green and white. You can maybe, again, since this takes 200 years before Man of Steel, you have a lot of opportunity to really flesh out that lore, that aspect of DC.
Right. And, I just want to mention something from the show Smallville, if you ever watched that show way back when, the precursor to the Arrowverse. So in Smallville, they actually established that John Jones had known Kal-El's father, Jor-El, and Jor-El had asked Martian Manhunter to watch over his son when he sent him to the planet. Yeah. So, they could play on that a little bit by having, Seg-El form a little bit of a relationship with, the Martians, maybe even somebody related to Martian Manhunter, Manhunter's family.
Or maybe a young Martian Manhunter. We don't know. We don't really know the age
definitely
of Martian Manhunter, how long they could live, but 200 years, it's possible. It's comic books. Anything's possible.
Yeah, and that's the dope thing about, dealing with alien races, because, really and truly, like, a bunch of these characters, especially, the next race of characters that we're going to introduce, we have, they've been around for thousands of years in the DC Comics universe. Yeah. But anyway, on to number 5. We've got Thanagarians, man, a.k.a. the people of Hawkman and Hawkgirl.
Yep. Again.
Flying people, man.
Flying people.
We're metal clubs, man. Come on.
I think and specifically, we want to see the alien race. We don't want, I guess we could both agree, or Hazy would agree with me, that we don't want to see too much of the whole reincarnation thing going on there, but just the warfaring, the Spartan-like alien race who are, they're a force to be reckoned with. And again, they don't have to be antagonistic. You could just introduce some characters. You can introduce maybe someone that, again, that's related to Hawkman or Hawkgirl, or parents, grandparents, whatever, or none of them. As long as you introduce the Thanagarians and specifically, show the intricacies of that alien race, that alien world, and maybe some problems that they go through. And maybe whatever odd things happen when the Kryptonians and the Thanagarians meet.
Absolutely. And in the post-crisis DC Comics world, Thanagar was essentially one of those plundering planets, man. One of those people who plunder planets and conquer planets. And once again, you have the opportunity to provide some cool villains who have some ties to DC Comics history. Oh yeah. So that would be pretty cool if you threw them in here. And like Boy said, though, they may not be necessarily villains for that matter. Yeah. But DeepBoyce, man, hit us with number 4.
Number 4 is Mongol and Warworld.
Oh, I love this one, man.
Mongol is one of my favorite DC villains or characters. I always like when he's around. He's not super complicated, but he's always just kind of cool. Always a great adversary to have. And having Warworld is always a cool thing to have. Just the fact that it's almost like a Death Star in a sense, but it is a world. There are people, or aliens inside. And, again, there doesn't have to be like a full-on war, but there could be aspects where, I don't know, the main character has to go on to Warworld and fight in the arena, or maybe fight against Mongol, or fight against someone else, some other, Easter egg or little-known character that would be cool to see in the show.
Now, a dope spin on that idea is that, usually when a character like Superman gets captured and he has to fight in some type of, isolated situation where he has to fight his way out. Usually they kind of have this this plot device where he's exposed to a red sun and he's depowered and he has to fight a way out. Yes, sir. But what if you see the opposite, right? So, Kryptonians live on a planet with a red sun and they obviously don't have powers, but when exposed to a yellow sun, they do gain these powers. So what if, Mongol, takes, let's say, Seg-El to Warworld and, expects him to fight his way out, but to make things interesting, he gives him the power of the yellow sun. Maybe Mongol wants to challenge himself and show the people how strong he is by having, him fight a Kryptonian at his peak.
Absolutely.
So you have this plot device. It's kind of a spin on what they do with Superman, where instead of exposing Kryptonian to a red sun, you expose him to yellow sun, and that will give them the excuse to use the Superman power set. Because at some point during this Krypton show, they're going to have a character who's using the Superman power set.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's gotta happen. They have to allude to that. Yeah. But anyway, man, number 3. Once again, number 3 is a little bit of a cheat. Okay, so. listen, we're trying to sneak in more than 10, okay?
Yeah.
So we labeled number 3 as time travelers. In particular, one of these time travelers we have is Booster Gold, right?
Yes.
I mean, classic story. Somebody's trying to harm, the House of El or take down Superman before he becomes the hero he's supposed to be. But instead of going after Clark Kent, he go after his grandfather, Seg-El.
Yeah.
So, in addition to characters like Booster Gold, you could also have the Legion of Superheroes. Legion of Superheroes in Smallville and the Superman the Animated Series, they've gone back in time to save Clark Kent on, separate occasions, separate storylines. But what if you have it where they're coming back to stop someone from killing Seg-El? One of the premises of Krypton is that the House of El has been disgraced. And, one of the ideas that, we've had when we were talking is that, what if the enemies of Clark Kent, they're coming after, this idea, this hero that is Superman, instead of coming at Superman while he's at his strongest, they look back in time. They're like, all right, when can we get the House of El? When can we stop this bloodline at its weakest? And what if Seg-El represents that quote unquote weakest link? And, that paints a target on his back.
What you're saying is they're going to try and correct a time aberration, the legends of tomorrow? Is that what you're saying?
Get out of here, DeepBoyce.
But also,
get out of here, DeepBoyce.
I will also throw another caveat, and this is probably not going to happen, but maybe go crazy and have the Justice League 3000, maybe one of those characters. I mean,
maybe.
If you're going to have some time traveling going on there, why not?
Definitely. I mean, I really would say, though, I would love to see Booster Gold because DC has said on a number of occasions that they have plans for Booster Gold. There was rumors that there was going to be a Booster Gold and Blue Beetle TV series. There was also rumors that there were going to be a Booster Gold movie. We haven't seen, any of that manifest. I believe in Man of Steel is actually a Booster Gold Easter egg during Superman's fight with Zod. But we haven't seen it come to life. And I would love to see Booster Gold get his shine. But anyway, we're on to number 2. And I'm going to leave this one to DeepBoyce because I know how much you love the characters we're about to mention.
Number 2 are the Green Lantern Corps. And again, we're cheating a little bit here. Just the Lantern Corps, actually. Not just the Green Lanterns. But, obviously, you want to see some of the older Green Lanterns. I mean, there's opportunity there. You could put in Abin Sur. Who was the Green Lantern that gave his ring. He died and he gave his ring to Hal Jordan. Again, he's an alien. He could be old as hell. Doesn't really matter. You could stretch things a bit. You can even show a young Sinestro if Sinestro happens to be the, the apprentice or, he's under the tutelage of Abin Sur.
Sure.
You can maybe show some other Green Lantern characters there or maybe just make up some new ones. It's totally fine. Or you can also involve the Guardians, who created all of the lanterns, throughout the emotional spectrum. You could also introduce the Red Lantern Corps, which is, I guess, a core of lanterns that doesn't get as much love. I mean, you're starting to see them a little bit more, like Injustice, and you saw them in the Green Lanterns animated show. They were basically
underrated show.
They're basically the main antagonists. So you could have Atrocitus. Again, Atrocitus could be 500, 600 years old. It really doesn't matter. You can stretch it as a threat. And also, we sneaked in the Manhunters, who, Hazy and I, we both usually like, we like seeing the Manhunters. We think it's definitely a cool villain that's, or legion of villains in the DC universe. So, the Manhunters being the first attempt by the Guardians to create sort of an intergalactic police force that went wrong because they were robots, they didn't feel anything, so they just thought the best way to patrol the galaxies is just to kill everything. That's the best way to solve crime. So that's, in turn, they created the Green Lanterns. And the Manhunters are responsible for the creation of the Red Lanterns, and they're responsible for a lot of other things that happened in the past. So, they're always a recurring villain, a recurring theme within just DC content. So that's another way to kind of sneak them in there as well.
Indeed. I mean, it would be fantastic if they found a way to sneak in the Green Lantern Corps before. And we're not talking about, let's be clear, we're not talking about Hal Jordan, Guy Gardner, John. We're talking about before. I mean, this is, like I said, 200 years before, let's call it the present day DCEU. Let's call it that, with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, all those characters. Yeah. But, a precursor. So the Lantern Corps at that point has been around for thousands of years. So what if we saw like an early version of the Green Lanterns? That would be fantastic. But last but not least, our last of the 10 that we've chosen And I told DeepBoyce I would bet my left testicle that he's going to be in Krypton. And that is Brainiac. Brainiac is one of the most recognizable Superman villains other than Lex Luthor.
Yes.
And Brainiac has history with Krypton because Brainiac is Kryptonian. He's a product of Krypton. You know, he's been a computer that he's an AI, a sentient AI who was created by Kryptonians. And there's no reason why Brainiac can't be alive 200 years before Superman is alive.
The history, I guess, is a little fudged up. I'm not sure if it was Superman's father, Jor-El, that made Brainiac. But needless to say, he at least, was in control or he was plotting. Like, he was aware of everything that was going on. He was aware that the planet was about to, collapse in and of itself. So he was, sort of underground in the core of Krypton, and he was aware of everything that was going on. And like Hazy said, he is a major, not just Superman villain, but DC villain.
True. And
you could really... we're pretty sure, this is almost a bit of a cop-out, we're pretty sure Brainiac is going to be in there.
He'll be alluded to in some capacity. I doubt that he's not going to appear in it, man.
And just to have him, I don't know, he could even be an ally. He could be an ally for most of the show, us knowing that Brainiac is eventually going to turn evil. Maybe we see why Brainiac turns evil. Maybe we see what it is that happens, or maybe we see him just plotting the entire time, only to reveal an evil threat that's eventually suppressed. There's a lot of storylines and a lot of things you could do there. Maybe he's responsible for all the infighting that's going on here. Maybe he's responsible for any of the other things that we mentioned on this list. The possibilities are endless. But if it's not just if you're going to have Superman, but if you're going to have specifically something involving Krypton, you pretty much have to have Brainiac. You just have to have him to some capacity.
Absolutely. But anyway, Leaguers, let us know if you're excited for Krypton on SyFy. Let us know who you want to see on Krypton. If you want to see any DC characters, or if you think any DC characters we named aren't even likely to appear in the show. We want to hear your opinion about all things Krypton. Let us know in the comment section. And by all means, if you liked anything you heard in this video today, hit us with a like. Hit us with a subscribe. Join the Spectacular Spoiler League. We are getting out of the Hall of Spoilers. We'll see you guys next time. We're heading out to Krypton, man. We flying away.
Peace.
We got to do it like peace. Because, we're going out to space. Peace, like Space Ghost, man. I will see you guys on the next one.